Hi, I'm Becca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make these clay embroidered mandala style tins. It's pretty much as what they are. I'm going to show you how I turn them from just this plain tin into something like this, which just looks a lot nicer for you to store your little bits and bobs in. This is the one that I'm going to show you in the video today. It's just ready for baking, this one, so I'm being a bit more careful with it. And then these are some of the other ones that I've created beforehand. So let's get started and I'll show you how. Right, so to start off we're going to have to cover the lid of our tin. Now I wanted to show you this. My pasta machine's actually getting ready for the blades cleaning and it's got all these little speckles on and things like that. If you get that, don't worry about it because we're going to turn it over and it's not going to be seen. So this is the side that's going to stick to the actual tin. I just wanted to show you that before we crack on with doing the actual tin. So zoom in a little bit better now. So you just want to take, it doesn't have to be a round tin, it can be any shaped tin, just as long as it's metal. Well, cardboard would work, but I prefer the metal ones, the more sturdy. Now these have got like a plastic disc in them. I don't know what it's actually for. I got all these tins from a craft recycle yard, it's called, and I think they were like 10 or 20p each, and I just picked up loads and I'm just going to be storing little bits and bobs in them. So you just want to take the lid. Now if you get something like this, this has got a raised ridge along the edge of it, so my clay is going to go up to that ridge. I've got my clay rolled out on a number 3 on my pasta machine. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want to have it too thin and then it tear when you're moulding it. So in the middle, depending on what your pasta machine is. And then I'm just going to take some Sculpey Bacon Bond and I'm just going to cover the entire thing. Now there is something else that I can't remember the name of it now, but it's more a thicker version of this. If I can remember what it's called, I'll pop it on the screen. Because I found out about it from Susan at Turtle Soup Beads, and she uses it and it's got a thicker sort of texture to it, and it keeps things in place a little bit more. It's got a bit more grab to it. This is fine, this works because this is what I've been using, but if I can make myself some, which you can actually make yourself some, and she shows you how to do that, I'm going to have a go at doing it and then see if there's much of a difference. But like I said, the ones that I've made already, they've been absolutely fine, and the clay doesn't come away. It's just, say if you're just starting out and you're worried about the clay slipping, you know, around on the clay, because, you know, like the lid slipping around on the clay, because it can do. But what we're going to do is we're going to press it into all these little ridges that are around here and up to the edge of that silver trim, and that will keep it in place. So just going all the way around the edge, making sure that everything has got a good coat on it. There we go. So that's got a really good coat on there. So I'm just going to take my clay, so I'm getting the dirty side that I've got that's got the little bits on. I've tried wiping off most of it, as I usually do, like with a baby wipe or something, but I just wanted to show you, if you get that, you don't need to worry about it so much. So I'm just sticking it down in the middle. So we know that we're not going to need all of this clay because obviously it's way bigger than what the lid is. So I just like to just trim off some of it. But remember, you've got to leave enough for it to be able to come to the height of the lid. So I'm just taking off most of that excess from around the outside. Okay, just lift it up off the mat. There we go, got it in the end. Now don't worry if you've got any marks and things like that, we're going to be smoothing them all out, so As you can see now, it's pretty much stuck to the top, and you get some air bubbles, but I'm going to show you how to get rid of those. You just press them in and things. But the way I like to start it, if you have got a round one, I take the straight line that I've just cut, and I've been cutting the excess off. I like to pop it along the rim, and I try to stick to that as much as I can, and then I just take out where it would gather up. So like, say like when you're wrapping a round gift or something like that, you know that it's going to be a little bit awkward, so just try and get it to meet as best you can first, and then just keep pressing round, and then just want to take your blade or a craft knife if you prefer. I'm just going to slice off that big bulge there, and then into sort of tuck that there, a bit like when you're making a bed and you're trying to do that, you know, the folded thing at the corners if you don't have the pitted sheet. And then we're just going to just push it into that gap. Now don't worry about it having that fold in it now, because we're going to smooth it out and you're not going to be able to see. So all it is just a case of moulding it to what we want. And we'll give it a good trim before we carry on decorating it. Okay, and then we'll smooth that out once we've got the rest of it done. So any of these little bits that are left over, don't worry about it, because I'm going to be covering up the majority of it anyway. So nothing to worry about. So I'm just going to do it again as we're going round. And keep making sure that it's flat to the top. Okay, so that's that one. So I'm going to go off camera and do the rest of these, and I'll come back round and then I'll show you how to smooth it out. Right, so I've got it all pressed down on there, so now it's just a case of smoothing it out. So you can just use your fingers and just blend it so it's got an even surface. You could also use a knitting needle and roll along it and just press it down, so it's just like using your rolling pin as you do when it's flat on the mat. It's just pressing it out more evenly for you. You could actually just use your roller as well. Now at the top you're going to get some like little bits of air bubbles, as you can see. So you just want to take a needle tool or your blade something, and I just put little puncture holes in them and press the air out. Oh, I've got a hair on there. Okay, and then I just like to just take my rolling pin, and this hair really doesn't want to. Oh no, it's not. It's not an hair, it's grease. So there we go, and you just carry on rolling it out and smoothing it out just until you've got it all even and ready as a base. Now it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, because if you're doing the mandala style, which I'll be showing you, you're going round and just making different rounds on it, you're not going to see much of the clay that's underneath. This is just to basically cover up the tin lid, and so that you've got a base for you to be able to stick your shapes onto. Now if you're wanting to do more of a scene on your clay, then you will obviously have to try and get as many bubbles and everything. Well, the bubbles you need to get out, it's more sort of like the creases and things like that, so you'd probably just have to work it a bit more. You could put over a piece of plastic, so something like this. This is just a page protector thing, and take a bit off, and then you can use this, and then this way you don't get your fingerprints as you're doing it, and it sort of just blends out the clay that way. But because I'm covering it up, I don't generally use this for all of it, but I'll just show you how. And then you can even move it around the side so that you can just smooth around there, just to get rid of those ridges. So just give it how you want it to be. So got a lot of them out. So I'm just going to carry on fiddling with this a little bit just to get it a little bit more even, and then I'll come back and I'll start decorating. Right, so I've got that all pressed down. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to see to the side parts. Excuse me. I'm just going to take my blade and I'm going to go all the way around this rim and take off any clay that has seeped over the edge of the rim. So you get that nice finished edge back that we started with. Yep. And now, as you can see, this bit here is just a little bit thicker than what the rest is. So I'm just going to shave off really thin layers. Excuse me. That way, any bits that you cut off you can use for something else. So these little itty bits that are still stuck on the clay, you can pick them off if they bother you. But like I said, doing it the way like I'm going to show you with the mandala way, it's going to cover up nearly all of it anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. Now if you do that and you cut a little bit off, just pick it back up and pop it back in place. It tends to be thicker on the parts where you've joined it all up, when we did that sort of creasing, you know, like we're making the bed. And that's when that's the bit where it crosses over, when it's got a little bit thicker than the rest of it. I'm happy with that now. Yeah, there we go. So I'll just clear that out of the way. Right, so we're covered up now. So for the main part of it, I'm going to be using these tiny little cutters. These ones are parts of sets that you can find in the fondant section in shops or online, things like that, and it's the smallest one out of each of the sets that I keep in this drawer. Now I found out about micro cutters from Susan again. She's one of my favourite people to watch, and she'd found these really teeny tiny ones, and these were in America. So I've got some of those, but these ones are what I found in the UK off of Etsy, and they're just slightly bit bigger than what these ones are, but these ones have got a lot more funkier shapes. So it depends on what your budget will expand to, whether if you can want to get the ones from the US. I think it was it were Amazon, and these ones were off Etsy. So just shop around and you can just search for micro cutters and you'll find some. And then these are just some ferrules as well that you can use for cutting little circles out or putting texture and things in. I'm going to be doing some of my normal clay embroidery techniques that I do put into it, but because I've got these quicken it up quite a lot. So it's just a case of you playing around and you making different patterns with them. So I have those in front of me whenever I'm working, and then for when I'm doing the regular clay embroidery pieces, I'm using my budget clay, because that one don't really need much conditioning, so I can just roll that out and do the little pieces that I do. If you've not seen my owl earring tutorial, they've got clay embroidery on, so I'll link that in the description for you to go and have a look at some of the techniques that I use on that. And then I also have my little box of offcuts of my Fimo clay, and these are the ones that I sort of roll out and use to decorate my my tins that I've been doing. I also have white and black in there as just as a base. So because I've got a nice pale background that they're going to go on, I want to go into a nice bright colour. So let's see, I want something that's going to be really different. So let's go with the green one. We'll do some leaves to start with. I'll go with this one. I think this is apple green, if I remember right from the packet when I was opening it up. I'm going to take all these bits off here. I'll condition them again in a bit. Now your clay, I generally roll it out as the same thickness as what I've had my lid on. So it's just in between. You need to be able to manipulate the clay a little bit so that you can push down into it and do your patterns and things like that. Get that all off there, because you're not actually going to need all that much clay to do this. Because we're rolling it out and making it thinner, you can get away with not using much clay at all. So that one's still a little bit thick, so I'm going to go down another setting. Just have a play with your pasta machine, or if you're just rolling it by hand, just keep having a look, seeing whether if it's to the right thickness that you want. So that's more like it. So I've just got it nice and thin, and then I'm going to stick that to my glass mat. I'm going to take my top. So I think I'm going to do some leaves to start with. So I'm going to use this one, and I just need some water, and I'll just press it on here, and this just helps it to not stick to the cutters so much. Oop, I'm dropping it now. So I'm just dipping it in the water off camera, just dipping it in the water, and then I'm just going to punch out some of these leaf shapes. So usually they do stick to the glass mat, but obviously because I'm on camera it doesn't want to. So to just get them out, I just want to take a needle tool and just push them out. That's all I need to do. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the edge. I'm going to do the sides of it last. Reason being is because we're going to be holding it and tilting it and moving it around and stuff. So you don't want to go and ruin what's on the side of it. So I always tend to leave that till last. So I'm just going to pop that there. And then I'm just going to take my normal needle tool. I'm just going to pop a line in the middle and then do some veins. I'll just show you the next one. I'm not going to show you me doing this all the way around because that would be like watching paint dry. So I'll just show you one more and then you get the idea of what I'm doing. So just make sure you get it lined up. If you want them touching, make sure that they're touching. Okay, so I've got them just about touching on there. Then needle tool again. There we go. And I've got two little leaves. So I'm going to go off camera now and I'm going to do that all the way around the outside, and I'll come back and show you what I'm doing next. Right, so I've got all my leaves done now, and I've got all the impressions on the leaves for the veins and the stem down the middle. So I'm going to put some flowers on now. So I'm going with a nice blue, and I've just got the smallest of a little flower cutter. There is different ones that you can get. This is more like a daisy, I think. And then there's another one that's not actually sure whether if that's supposed to be a flower or something. You can turn it into a flower anyway. But I'm just taking this one, and this is the tiniest one out of this set. So I'm just dipping it in the water again. And then the bonus with these ones is they've got the plunger that you can just push out, and then it comes off the end of it. You don't have to do any of the poking with your pokey tool. So, and then what I'm going to do now is zoom in a little. Oh, that's as far as I can go now. I'm just going to take my needle tool, and I'm just going to do an impression in between the petals, just to the centre, so it looks more like the flower that you'd see in nature. It's got that impression of it. So if you can just about see that, I'm trying to get it so it's not too glaring in your face. So it's just basically, it's got those 5 petals and it's more defined now. And then I'm just going to put this next to the leaf and decide on whereabouts I want it to go. So I'm going to do it in between 2 of the leaves. Okay, so I've got it placed there. Now I may put rhinestones in this, I may just put a little bit of clay, but I'll decide that once I've got further around. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to do these flowers all the way around until I've got back to the other side, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Right, so I've got my blue flowers all excuse me, finished, and going around now. So I'm going to do another round of leaves but in a different shape. So this is the colour that I'm going to use. So it basically just looks like a pair of leaves that you'd find at the bottom of a plant or something. So I'm going to use that one. But I'm not going to go for another green, I'm going to go for a nice purple because I want this to stand out. So I want it to look like one of those mandalas that you see lots of patterns and things everywhere, so that's what I'm wanting it to go like. So I'm just taking my little cutter again and take it out. Okay, so I've got my little leaf shape, and I'm going to pop one in between both of these flowers. So it's going to block up that area. So like I said, this is covering up all those bits I told you not to worry about that's on your clay if you do get any bits, because the majority of it's going to be covered up, so you're not really going to see it, and you're just going to see these little bits of your base colour coming out from them. So now you can either use your normal needle tool, or if you've got any of these other needle tools that I've mentioned in my other video, and you can just do different patterns with them. So I'm just taking this one that's looks a bit like a hockey stick really. I'm just going to, if I go that way around, I'm going to point out the point of the impression going out towards the point of the petal, one on either side, and then it just gives you that added dimension to it. So I'm going to do that and go all the way around, and when I've got back to the beginning I'll be back again. Okay, so I've got the little purple leaves put on now. So I've found this little shape that it looks like a cat head. I think that's what it'll be anyway. But I'm not going to use it as a cat's head. I'm just going to use it as a different shape. So I'm just dipping it again. And then take it out, see what we can do with it. Okay. And I'm going to pop them in between those purple leaves. So moving it upside down like that, so it's going to connect the purple leaves with the little ears. Right, so what can we do as a texture with that one? So I've just got my sponge with all my different needle tools on here. See if I can find something to do a different impression on what we've already done. I will do something with this one. So this is just a nail drill part. And right, so let's go on the edge. I'm just going to push down the edge with it so that makes it more curved up and more beveled. I don't think you can actually tell very well on the camera, but I'll just go that side as well. So I've got the two little V's going in the ears, and then I think I'll take one of these little ferrule things. Oh, it's a bit too big. And then I'll just put, stick with that side. Just going to make a little impression of a circle, and then put a little dot in the centre. So I'm going to do that. So it's another point where I might put some more rhinestones in yet. I've not made my mind up where I want it to go. So I'll go and do that all the way around and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've got those yellow shapes done all the way around there. So we've just got the centre to fill in. Now on some of the other tins that I've done, I've put some cabochons, or none really, I can't remember what they were called on the listing. They were off Amazon. They're basically just little half glass domes, and they've got like a printed picture underneath, and it's that sort of thing. And in the packet, I think there were about 200 or something like that. Maybe not that many, but what's it say on the packet? Cameo pendant for jewellery making. Oh, 70 pieces. I don't think I'll get 300, but there just looks that many. And some of them I've just put a simple rhinestone in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the majority of this just with polymer clay, because not everybody's got those things to put on their tins. So I'm just going to do some tiny little flowers in the centre, and I'm going to use, let's go for a nice bright pink. So go for all of this nice, looks almost neon off camera. I don't know whether it is quite bright on the camera, but it really is. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to do it the clay embroidery way, not using the cutters to finish off this section in the centre. So I'm just rolling my clay out into a log like I do when I'm doing any of my clay embroidery. Okay, and then I'm just going to take some thin slices. I always take off just the end so it's evened up, and then for each flower I'm going to want 5 slices, I think. So if you can manage to keep your first slice on your blade, then you can measure up against the cane for the next one so they get roughly about the same size. Obviously, because you're doing it by eye, it's not going to be 100% accurate. It's just the way that I try to work it when I'm doing it. So, right, okay, so I'm just going to take one of my little slices, turn it into a ball, and then I'm going to just roll it at one side so it makes a tiny little teardrop, and that makes one petal. So like I say, you're going to need 5 for those. So I'm going to show you how to put together one of them, and then I'm going to go off camera to do the rest, because it's going to need a few for this centre part. Last one. Okay, so I've got my little teardrops, and I like to put them on using my needle tool. The other one, actually. Sorry about the squeaky noise, it's all my needle tools coming through the sponge. So I just like to pick them up just with the end of my needle tool and just decide on where I'm going to put them. Now this is a good way for, say if you have got these little imperfections in the clay, or you've got little bits of other colours on, this is a way that you can cover them up and make it look like it's supposed to be the pattern anyway. So it's a cheating way of doing it. Well, I call it cheating anyway. Saves me having to do all that extra burnishing. I'm just putting them in a flower shape. Now I'm just going to take my needle tool again, and I'm just going to push down the petals so that they go down in the centre, so going in the middle of the teardrops. Now for the centre of the flowers, you can just use a tiny little circle of clay, just another little ball, and pop it in the centre, or you could use some tiny rhinestones. These are ones that I found in the nail section. I think it was on AliExpress. It's just nail rhinestones, and then I stick those on with this rhinestone top coat glue, and it's a UV setting gel for rhinestones and things. I know in the US Tiny Pandora has something called Gem Sticky. I've not got any of that, but it works very similar to this. I don't know whether if it's got a stronger adhesive to it. That's, you know, it's just a case of if you're in the US and you want to try it, you can get that. This I got from AliExpress, but I think in any sort of nail technician storage place or warehouse, I'm sure that they'll have something similar. So that's just generally where I stick them on with. So I think what I'll do is I'll put some rhinestones in these. I thought then what I was going to do. You can just put like tiny little balls on, so I'll just show you. In fact, I ought to really do it now. Let's go with red. Right, I'm just going to take a tiny little bit off and I'll just show you. So just make it into a ball. It's a little bit too big, but just showing you what the difference is. So, and then you just pop that in the centre of your flower. So you've got the centre piece there. So I might end up doing that instead, and then I might put some rhinestones around the rest of it. So I'm a bit like, I keep changing my mind when I'm doing things what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go off camera and do that now, and I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm doing next. Right, so I've put 5 little flowers on and given them centres just with a little ball of clay. Now I'm just going to add some leaves to fill in the remaining area. So it's doing the same thing as we did for the petals, but we put them so that the point is facing outwards from the flower. So I'm just going to take off a slice. Just do the same. And then we can flatten it down. Oh, dropped it now. Where is it? So make your point. And just flatten it. Just like that. And then just take needle tool and just put a line down the centre. And then you can pop it where you want it to go. So one there. So you could actually just put your line in once you've got it in place, and then it'll press it down into the clay underneath. So I'm going to put a few more of these on and just fill in this space, and then come back and we can do the outside. Right, so I've got all my leaves put on now around the flowers, so now I'm going to do it around the edge. I decided I'm just going to put some simple butterflies on the end, so I'm using one of the micro cutters that I got from America. And I'm just going to do the same as what I've done with all the rest, just using water as a release so that it doesn't stick to it as much. And I've rolled my clay out on the same setting, the number 3, or 4 actually I think it is. And then I'm just going to push it out. to stick them all the way around the edge. Now this is probably when you'll find little hairs and things like I have done that's on the edge. Now a good way to get them off is if you've got some baby wipes, and you can get it out of the packet. These come in handy for all sorts of things, craft being one of them. So you just want to rub at it gently and it will clean your clay as well as help you get off any little bit that you don't want to be on there. So that's cleaned it up and it's got that little bit of hair off for me. So you could go all the way around the edge of this just to give it a clean up. But I do it as you were going around, simply being because you're still holding it, putting the first few on. So if you don't work, just do it as you're going around. So I'll just show you one more little butterfly on. Some of these are very, very tiny. So I'll leave a little gap. And you can just move it into place with your needle tool. And then I think I'm just going to go down the centre just to press it into the clay. And it sort of makes the wings look like they're raised up just a little, but they're not. They're stuck to the clay, but because of the indent it makes them look like they're flying off. So I'm going to do those all the way around and then I'll come back. So all my little butterflies are on around the edge, and I've just pressed them into the clay by making that line in the centre of them. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a few rhinestones into these little blue flowers that we put on earlier. So I'm going to use these rhinestones that I told you about a while ago. So because they're really small flowers, I'm going to go for some really teeny tiny ones. So I'm going for the second size up, and I'll be using my gem pickup tool thing. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but I got it from the range. I think it was only about £2 or something like that. Pick your rhinestones up with this end and then you push them in with this sort of like inverted part at the top. So you can use them for that 5D diamond art stuff that's all around at the moment. So I'm just going to take my rhinestone glue. It's only a little pot, but there's loads in it, and I've been doing quite a lot of work with it, and it's barely even gone down the pot, and I've been using it for going on 3 months now, I think. So, right, I'm just using these little pickup sticks that are out of the makeup section in the pound shop. I think they're for lip liner and or eyeliner, that sort of thing. Just got a tiny little dot on the end, and I'm just going to put a smidgen in the centre of the flower. Fair enough there. I want enough so that it'll come out from underneath the rhinestone, so that the UV lamp will cure it so that it's stuck in there. So I'm just taking my little rhinestone. Which one did I go for now? No. I'm just popping it down, getting it in place, and then just take the other end of it and just push it down into it. And then I'm going to do that all the way around on these blue flowers. Now if you've not got one of these, if you can manage to pick them up with your finger, you can also pop them in with, I've actually got one in here, a pencil with an eraser on the end. You can use that as something to push them down into the clay. So I'm going to go and put them all the way around there, and I'll put them under my UV lamp for 60 seconds and then it'll just be ready for baking. Okay, so those are all set. I've added in some little blue butterflies in between the flowers. So that's it all finished and ready just for baking now. So it's really fun to do, and I find it therapeutic, and you know, sort of when I'm just wanting something just to take my mind off of things, this is just concentrating on a pattern and bringing something from your mind to life and just being able to put it onto a little tin, or it doesn't have to be a tin, it could just be a disc of clay if you wanted to do something just like that. So this isn't the only one that I've made, so I've got some more to show you. So this is just a more simpler one. It's not done like the mandala style, it's just more just clay embroidery, and I've just used some of the petals that we used at the beginning of the other one, and I've just rolled out some snakes of clay, and I've just put some sort of like dots in it just for some texture, and I put some of the little butterflies in, and around the edge I've just put some more leaves. So that's just what that is. So that's a little bit more simpler than the ones that we've just made. And then there's this one, which I've just used white on top of purple. I wanted it to look like lace. So I've basically done the same sort of thing as what we've done with the one that I've shown you how to create, but I've just used one colour of clay. And I think it looks really nice. It does look like lace, and I've just put some more rhinestones on these centre ones. You could put more on around here because I've done some flowers along the edge. You could add some rhinestones to that part if you wanted to. It just depends on how sparkly you want to make it. I like everything to have a bit of sparkle. And then another mandala one with one of those glass cabochons that I showed you. This was the first one I did actually. So I've used some of the cutters, I've done a bit of normal clay embroidery just with rolling things out, and then I've just put that cabochon in the centre with some of that UV adhesive. Now you might not be into doing all this clay embroidery and not like doing all the lines and textures and all things like that. You might want something that's just a little bit simpler, and I've done another one, and all I've used is some slices off of canes that I've made. This one was a lot quicker to create, obviously because it's just slices. You're not having to do all the intricate work. All you've got to do is just decide on what pattern you want to create and put it onto the canvas really. So as you can see, this one's running around. I've got some of those little flowers and butterflies and things in that one, and then this one, I like this one because this has got nice little coloured tiny little rhinestones. Doesn't that look nice? I like playing with those. So they're just good little storage tins really, and I'm just going to keep all my rhinestones and little cutouts and things for other projects. So that one will just go onto the tin once it's baked. So I hope you've enjoyed that and it's inspired you to have a go at making one of these yourself. It doesn't have to be a round tin, it can just be any sort of metal tin that you've got, because I know you can get little tins with mints in and things like that. It's just basically something to decorate and just to make my storage look a little bit nicer. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, if you could give me a thumbs up, that'd be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed, if you consider subscribing, that would be appreciated too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.